Welcome everybody. You're joining us once more on the Life Enthusiast Health Hangout. Thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate having you along. I'm Scott Patton, and with us as usual is Martin Patella, the founder and president of Life Enthusiast. Hey Martin, how you doing today?
Good day, Scott. I'm ready to roll.
Awesome. That's great. What are we going to be talking about today?
Today the topic is the human microbiome. The planets that we are. If you could visualize that I, as a person, carry on myself about 100 trillion little creatures. They travel with me wherever I go.
Wow. All right. So let's just get started.
How our germophobia is making us sick.
Well, that's right. We want everything to be sterile, don't we?
Right. So just focus on this point. We are covered in microbes. We are filled with microbes. You know, every place of your skin that you touch, there are microbes. You cannot possibly get rid of them. In fact, if you successfully get rid of them, you will become sick and you will die.
So we need them. It's a two-way street. They do stuff on our bodies or in our bodies or around our bodies, and we need them to do that work.
Exactly. They protect us from harm. They're a necessary part of the barrier that's between the hostile outside and the fragile inside.
So we're kind of like our own planet Earth, because you've got trees and you've got grass, you've got worms, you've got soil, you've got fish in the sea, you have animals running around, you have birds flying around. We kind of have all that same stuff going on around us as a...
Yes, at the microscopic level, we are essentially a very complex web of life. And when we get rid of some, we cause problems. You have visible evidence of it with people with skin problems and immune problems and all manner of trouble.
Right. All the disease that we can see people getting is stuff not working the way it should be working.
So I would say it this way. Yes, there are dangerous germs out there that could make you sick, but your immune system is supposed to be strong enough to manage most of it.
Right, without any help.
Right. So let's dive into it.
Okay. So like you were saying, we're trillions and trillions of cells, about 35 trillion in number.
Right.
That's us, right?
That's me. That's me. The number of cells that comprise my body. And then there are anywhere between 10 and 100 times more single-cell microbes that live on top of me and within me. And they are adapted for different places, like the wet terrain inside your mouth, inside your nose, in your armpit, or in the oily, like in your scalp or on your back where the skin is oilier, or the dry ones that are on your forearms, your hands, so on.
So you've got some microbes that are used to like being in the ocean. Like we've got the ocean. You got other ones that are like the Sahara Desert.
Yeah.
And then
other ones they like the bush. Yes.
They like the bush, right?
Literally. Okay. Let's. There's a video that we have actually posted on our earlier session on the podcasting blog. You can see the. Jump forward. You can see the link here, the /podcast explaining the human microbiome. I found this wonderful video sponsored by NPR. And it's a 5-minute video, animated, that explains the human microbiome. It's just a wonderful piece of education. I just encourage everyone to watch it.
Cool. And it gives you a good idea, because we're really going to be talking about how the way we've treated these microbes is impacting our health, right? So it's important that we
Right.
understand these are part of the cavalry, and we've been mowing them down thinking that they're the bad guys.
Right. Yes. Indeed. You just said it ahead of the slide. Microbes are responsible for much of our immunity. In fact, 80% of our immune system is resident in our digestive system, in the gut. And that's the interface between the ingested dangerous foods as they are processed in the tube. You know that the tube between your mouth and your anus really is part of the outside, because we put dirty things into our mouth and we process it and push it down, and it comes out still dirty out the back end.
Right.
And the body will allow to bring into the sterile inside through the villi, through the brush border barrier, only the fully digested and sterile things.
I see. So we take something and we eat something, it has microbes on it probably. Like if you took a carrot, right?
Yeah.
It's going to have microbes in it.
It should.
It's part of being a carrot.
Yeah.
So we eat the carrot, raw carrot, it goes in, and some of those microbes are actually going to be helping the microbes in our body digest the carrot and take all the stuff from the carrot that we want. But there are also going to be some microbes in there that probably are the black hat guys, the evil ninjas, and those microbes. So the microbes in our gut and the microbes in the carrot that are the good guys, the white hats, they're going to be looking after these guys, making sure that they don't get in.
That is correct. Yes, that's the idea. And so we have different species in different sections of our digestive system. And there are different terrains, different pH, and different objectives. And you can liken it to the climatic faunas on the planet. Like the cold water fish or the warm water fish, or something living in the high Andes, or something living in the jungles down by the equator.
It's a very, very different species.
Right. Depending on the different sections of the digestive system.
So you have different types of flora in your mouth, you have different in your small intestine, in your large intestine, in your colon, and so on, right?
But they live there. Like the specific species will live in that certain section. That's where they like to be. And
so
if
you
they're
won't
not,
find them somewhere else.
Right. And if they're not, you have a problem.
Right.
And so that's the lines. The sterile foods will lead to sterile guts. So if you're eating foods that have been sterilized, or that you have not inoculated yourself, or you have killed it off through the use of antibiotics or chlorine or
microwaving
drugs. I guess that too.
Yeah.
But drugs do a terrible job on these things. So if you end up with a sterile gut, that means that your team on the inside is missing or is weak. That makes you susceptible to attack.
So these black hat guys we were talking about are able to get through and into the bloodstream and into our body cells where they're not supposed to be.
Right. But even they can just proliferate in your gut. They might not even get into the blood, but let's just say that you travel to some tropical country and you eat the local food or drink the local water. It's so common to have the gringo go down to Mexico and
spend 3 days in the washroom.
Yes, indeed.
Montezuma's revenge.
Right. And it really is that we're too stupid to have enough strength in our digestive system through our germophobic lifestyles.
Right.
Too much Lysol, maybe.
Mm-hmm. So how does?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to ask you about the last point, the greater microbial diversity. Microbial diversity.
Well, the point was that researchers have confirmed that in rural cultures, the primitive cultures, there is much more microbial diversity in the guts of people as compared to the urban dwellers who live on sterile foods.
Hmm.
Okay, next one.
So what's an example of a sterile food?
Well, you harvested the carrots, and instead of wiping them on your jeans before you start eating them, you first rinse them, then you rinse them in chlorinated water, then you then you put them away for 6 months, and then you bring them out.
And you boil them?
And maybe you even peel them before you touch them. Yeah, and boil them. That's about as sterile as it gets.
Yeah.
I stuck on this picture of a baby with his mouth firmly planted on the floor to illustrate that to build a healthy flora, you need to essentially lick everything.
And that's what babies do. It drives us all crazy.
But it's by design. This is what's supposed to happen. And the baby, as he goes through the birth canal, he inhales and ingests and licks the birth canal, and then the mother's skin and the saliva and the intimate behaviors between the mother and the child. And then as they evolve, they start crawling, and they crawl in everywhere, and then they inoculate their own immune systems through these encounters. And it's supposed to be gradual. It's not supposed to be a big onslaught all at once.
Right.
It's not like vaccination where you shove a mega dose of multiple toxic things into the bloodstream direct.
Right. Well, when you think about it, most of the time for the first 3 months or so, the baby's always being held. So the type of bacteria that it's being associated with is, well, that of its mother or father usually, right?
Right. Yeah, the oral stuff you can lick and breathe and transfer that way.
Yeah. And then later on, as it gets stronger, the baby goes on the floor, and now it's finding other things.
Right. So the weakening of the immune system happens through the technological interventions. Instead of going through the birth canal, the child is born by C-section. He's wiped and washed with antibacterial wipes, and he might even be drinking chlorinated water, and antibiotics, and just generally too much cleanliness, too much Lysol on the kitchen counter. Not that good.
Ouch.
And so, I stuck a picture of a child. I found it on this Baylor International Pediatric Initiative. Anyway, this is I don't know if it's a boy or a girl, but that's cold sores. And sterile gut, weak immunity. If your gut is sterile, you are automatically susceptible to infections, whether it's the stomach flu or the runny nose or the worse, the stronger things like dysentery, or the lung infection that you inhale and cough, or the skin problems like these cold sores. That's just a consequence of weak immunity.
Okay. So we need to stop the killing and start nurturing.
Right. So here's the associate director of the CDC telling, we have reached the end of antibiotics, period. But this slide is supposed to help us illustrate the point that indeed we have, through our agricultural practices and through our indiscriminate use of antibiotics in treating infections, we have nurtured bugs that have grown, adaptable, resistant to the antibiotic itself.
The so-called superbugs that live in hospitals and they can't get rid of?
Yeah, those. So it now happens that you have to be very afraid to go in places where these things exist. And they exist on farms, and they exist on your food, they exist in grocery stores, on the packages of food. So you now should be handling your food very carefully, and you should be afraid of ground meat, because ground meat takes the surface and buries it deep inside of the mass. So if you're eating ground meat, you should be cooking it fully, not any pink middles, because you need to cook them off. When you're cooking a steak or a big slab of meat, you cook the whole surface, unless that poor thing has been tenderized with needles. I don't know if you've seen this mechanical tenderization where they have
Yes.
these needles that puncture things. Of course, you are familiar with it. So
Yeah.
that drives the surface back into the meat. So if then you cook your steak medium rare, you'll have raw bacteria in the middle.
But if you just have like a T-bone steak, you sear it on both sides, you've basically killed all the bacteria on the outside of the meat, and there isn't any inside it.
That is correct. But if you have if it was tenderized mechanically, then
Not
you
the
have a
case.
problem.
Yeah. So the problem is we've been using antibiotics in our farming system, and then we've been using them in our medical care. So basically, we've been killing microbes like crazy. Agent Orange, I guess, sort of thing, is just
Yeah.
shearing everything away.
Yeah.
The result is we've got a weak gut, and the result is that we've got bacteria that's becoming very, very resistant to treatment.
Right. So we have this double whammy, the sitters, where we are less resistant and the bugs are stronger. So we need to be really concerned here. And I found this video on Frontline. There was a whole program on Frontline. It's a PBS. You can just copy the address and go there. Hunting the nightmare bacteria. It's a whole program that deals with where they are, how they come about, what you can do about them. And the what you can do about them is fairly limited.
Okay.
We have some tools in our arsenal. We have the colloidal silver, which is working with some of them, but some are resistant to silver. Some are defeated by copper, so maybe that. And then, of course, we talked in our previous program about humic acid. That provides the terrain to the immune system that gives it the intelligence to deal with microbes that it's previously not encountered.
Okay.
And there comes the soil part.
Right. So we need to get these microbes back up to snuff and in quantities that we need in order to be healthy.
That's correct. We need to ingest both the lactobacilli or lactobacteria, which are created by fermentation, or they create the fermentation, but we need to eat unpasteurized fermented foods like sauerkraut or kimchi or yogurt or I can't think of the word now, kefir or kefir, how do you want to pronounce it? So those, and we also need the soil-based ones because they are helping us build a strong culture, because the bacteria make up most of the flora in the colon. And look at that, up to 60% of the dry mass of the feces are these bacteria.
Wow.
As it's leaving. And it's estimated that between 300 and 1,000 species, and going back to the slide we showed earlier, the rural dwellers will have a more varied, wider spectrum of these than the urban people. Anyway, they live in the gut, and they are important. They produce vitamins like biotin and vitamin K. Vitamin K is important for your blood clotting issues. Hormones that will store fats, lactoferrin, that's a hormone that deals with the binding of the iron in your blood. So if you're suffering from bad blood or not enough hemoglobin, you may actually need better gut culture, better bacteria in your gut.
Well, and everybody needs to be concerned about that, right?
Oh, absolutely. Big issue. And these microbes they don't eat the same food that we want. In fact, food for bacteria is typically indigestible to humans,
Hmm.
and it's been known as prebiotics, and they come under the name of fructooligosaccharides. And fructose is from fruits, and saccharides is in sugars, and oligomeric, those are like complex somehow. And soluble fiber and inulin and pectin. That picture there is a molecule of the fructooligosaccharide.
Wow.
Inulin, that's the fiber that's in plants. And I'm sure you will have remembered that these are added to the Exula superfoods. They are very important nutrients that are frequently missing in the food. And
Right.
we need to add it. We need to add it back in.
And that's a great way to get it back, isn't it?
Indeed, so. So
Okay.
we have listed the category on our website on the life-enthusiast.com. Under products, you'll find it in the probiotics. There's a whole category of it. So that's where you find all of them. If you could maybe put forward, we'll just discuss the individual ones that we have. These are the pictures of the products, what they look like. Big deal. These are here for a reminder. The main reason you want to take them is to restore healthy elimination and nutrient absorption. And you need to have the whole broad spectrum of it. Some soil-based, some lacto-based, some came from fermentation, some need to be fed by the prebiotics, pardon me, and they all benefit from having the humic acid in the body as a terrain from which to move forward. And so the reminders, the Bodybiotics, which is a soil-based set of organisms, they call them consortia of microbes. It's available either in capsules or in chewables. And the chewables are kind of cool because they make your breath smell better.
Well, plus one of the areas that we probably don't get a lot of probiotics is in our mouth, because there's that whole saliva and what goes on in our
Yes.
in our chewing that's really, really important.
And we don't eat enough dirt.
And we don't eat enough dirt, if any.
Yeah, right. And then the next picture that I have there is the full set made by Genki. Genki is a wonderful Canadian company that is quite unique. The methodology is the natural fermentation method. And what they do is they start with grains or with grasses, and they sprout them. And once sprouted, they ferment them using the sauerkraut culture type of fermentation. And then once it's fully fermented, they dry it, put it in bags. But they also put the liquid into bottles. And that is just phenomenal stuff. That's the juice of fermentation.
So you can take the juice, or you can take the dried stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the blue box there, that's a mainly inulin and prebiotic mix that will help people, especially with candida and other yeast and fungal infection in the digestive system, because it will support the good guys. And then the next one is called Flora. It's probably our strongest broad spectrum, wide range, anything from the mouth to the anus. Take care of every single aspect of your digestive and eliminative systems. So if somebody has trouble, that will by far be the best. And then the last one is a bag of humic acid. It's a powdered thing. It's also available as a tincture. But that's what we should throw in.
Cool. So that covers it pretty well. I'm just kind of curious because I keep coming on to like how much, like a Strataflora. Would you suggest that's something that someone should take a couple teaspoons a day, or more? Or?
It varies, depends on the state of health. People who are just starting out with a very troubled and bad, digestive system in bad shape, they might need 3, 4, or 5 teaspoons of it a day.
Okay.
But some people need only very little. Half a teaspoon a day is plenty for some. So you need to feel your way through it. You need to find out what your body wants and how much of it requires.
This is from one of our customers. Gave us a 5-star for the Strataflora. Wow, I just continue to be enthused about this product. I have a customer who just bought another bottle from me. She said, "This is all that I'm taking now. Whenever I have gas, I just take this and it goes away. It has really cleared my skin up and I've lost 5 pounds without changing anything else." She and I both looked at each other in amazement. We both had the same experience. I had lost 7 pounds without changing anything. I had gone off the product for a while and it felt worse. Needless to say, I'm back on it again. I think it is clearing things out of my insides and that have been there for years. Thanks for a great product. You have a winner here.
Indeed. Well, I mean, what more can you say, right? The results discuss that some of these problems were in the upper and some were in the lower, and some were related to the food processing and nutrient extraction and so on. That's the testimony to the broad range and broad reach of this product.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
So, Martin, if somebody wanted to know more about these products, maybe how it can help with their digestive system, what should they do?
Well, they can read up at the Life Enthusiast website, www.life-enthusiast.com. Look under the products category for probiotics. And if that's not enough, give us a call. We can be reached at 1-866-543-3388.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. Hope you got a lot out of this. We certainly enjoyed bringing this information to you. And stay tuned. Head over to the Life Enthusiast Co-op website. Make sure you sign up for our newsletter, and we'll let you know when we have our next hangout. See you then. Bye-bye.
Thank you.